Jacob, welcome to MedTech Unboxed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve, for having me. Great to be here again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to get together with you. We learn so much, and it's always very informative.
Very good. I think we have a very special topic today to cover.
Absolutely. You sent me this box a while ago, Prime, and there's been a lot of buzz about Prime, and I think a lot of people don't know what Prime is, so we're going to take care of that today.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Prime, but and part of that in this box, beautiful box as always, if I can hold it. Nice presentation, and inside we have a collection of components, and I'll let you kind of use this as an intro to Prime and tell us what we're looking at. I also have this other part here that I can open, but let's get started and talk about Prime.
Yeah, let's go into this. So Prime stands for Proficient Ingot Material Evaluation. So it's actually an acronym, and it took us some time to come up with a good naming there. But what do we see behind that? The initiative started in 2022, where the supply chain around nitinol had significant constraints. We saw that the demand for ingot material, but also for gun drilling capacity, was significantly constrained. And we also saw that there was huge potential with newcomers or new players in the market to supply ingot materials. And there was also a strong belief in the market and with these partners that we saw that it would make a lot of sense to join forces and to try to qualify new ingot material. That's what it basically stands for, Proficient Ingot Material Evaluation. So there was 5 companies coming together, and it starts sort of with the ingot making company Fort Wayne Metals that we all know from the wire braiding and wire manufacturing. Yeah, you have the names there, and then we have 2 tube manufacturers, company Euroflex and Vasco Tube that I'm sure a lot of our listeners here are familiar with. And then we have Admedus, which is a very proficient component manufacturer, and we have Mico Manufacturing, where I am the CEO as well. So for the listeners who don't know me, we are a family business as Mico, and I've been here in this position for 5 years, but I've been for 13 years in the company. And we came together because we saw the need for additional ingot material. We also saw that the company Fort Wayne was melting nitinol successfully for a very long time already. So they were not a newcomer in the sense that they were melting nitinol. They had been doing this for a very long time. But to that point, they were mainly focusing on melting nitinol for their own wire business. So that was kind of the potential that the collaborators in this project saw. And where we got together, I remember our first meeting at the Compamate show in Düsseldorf, where everyone got together, and we looked at how can we possibly bring this ingot material also to the tubing business and to the component business. And a lot of this, and it's quite important here, I think, to show the stability of the ingot and also of the tubing and the components that are made out of this. And this is how the initiative kind of started. And we brainstormed around how could we kind of possibly describe a evaluation test path to show to our customers and to show the value of this ingot to our customers in the component business, but also in the tubing business. That was kind of the idea around it.
Okay, excellent. And this, Jacob, these samples that you sent me kind of symbolize Prime, right? If you want to go through these.
Exactly. Yeah, this stands for the partners. So it starts kind of with the ingot, and this is the one you have sort of in your bag, which is kind of the solid material, the nitinol. Of course, you have to imagine this is not the actual format how the ingot is coming out. It's a massive kind of melted alloy that you have there. So it's multiple tons that are coming out of the furnace in Indiana there in Fort Wayne. So very different from what you see there. However, we had to put it into a format that it kind of matches there. We couldn't bring the actual ingot. And then the second thing you have the tube in front right now. So this is what Euroflex and what Vasco Tube are making. And then also, in addition to that, we have a stent component. And of course, it doesn't have to be a stent. It could be a hardware frame. It could be a neurovascular device. So all kinds of different things that we thought about, but we just used the stent device because most people are familiar with what a stent is. So that's kind of the representation of Mico and Admedus. And I think this was quite important for us. In the beginning, the project was very, very technical, but as we've seen more and more success going through the process from 2023 and 2024 onwards, we've seen more and more success, and we also started to think about how to communicate this to the industry, to potential partners, to additional component manufacturers, to other people in the industry, and also, of course, to device manufacturers. And this is how we kind of created these symbols. So they are of course there's no value in these symbols by itself, but really it's for communication. We made the logo around it, and also the platform here that you see there to show what it is, because kind of these kind of partnerships are very unusual in the industry, and this is why we created a symbol around it, and we also created this acronym to be able to talk about the project and to relate to that. So that was the reason behind that. Right. So when I look at the time, when I look back at 2022, there was this supply chain crisis kind of coming out of COVID. There was some uncertainty around that, but also we've seen some changes in the nitinol industry, in the gun bearing industry, some acquisitions that happened there, and also some deals that changed kind of the landscape. And most of the companies in the Prime project are still family run or family groups, and we had really this long-term objective to serve our customers and to make sure that the supply chain is not disrupted by any change there. And that's why we created this long-term project. When we sat at this meeting table, we already knew that this was not a sprint, but a marathon. We knew that this would take 2 to 3 years. Imagine just a melting of the ingot takes some time, and then sending this to gun drilling companies, tube drawing, component manufacturing. This is all not just done overnight. It all has its lead times. Everyone was making a significant effort to expedite things and to have fast turnaround times. However, we also needed the scrutiny. We also didn't want to kind of rush on things and then have the problem that things were not working out. We wanted to really test this in detail and have the scrutiny on testing, so that we don't run into issues and ultimately significantly increase kind of the project time because we kind of forgot something or did something wrong. So we were very focused on doing it fast, but with the significant rigor and the scrutiny behind it. That was important. In the beginning, also I think also from the very first meeting, we thought about kind of different product categories and component categories. And I think this is also one of the challenges, because the companies here, they're not device manufacturers. They don't have an actual product on the market. And we needed something to kind of represent the different generations of nitinol. And we can go into this quickly, but nitinol, we currently refer to usually as 3 generations that are on the market. So the classical standard, the F2063, is kind of talks about 39 micron inclusion sizes. And then this is kind of a Gen 1 material. And from there on, we also have a Gen 2 and a Gen 3 material. And this is kind of the higher the generation, the lower basically the inclusion size. And the more demanding in terms of fatigue life, the smaller the components are, usually the higher the categories or the lower inclusion size you want. So usually you can expect higher fatigue life with lower inclusion size. And how we kind of built this a bit around this was that we defined 3 different product categories. You find this on the prime-ingot.com website as well. So that we had a sort of a classical peripheral type stent device that was representing our Gen 1 material, more like a very fine stent that could kind of be a neurovascular device, but very kind of ultra fine strut device that is in the Gen 2 category. And then we have something that represents more like a structural heart implant, like a TAVR frame, that we see in the Gen 3 category. And these are by no means any kind of finished component, but they are our representatives to test these categories and to have actual builds to show and that to be able to compare the different ingots and the different generations, and also kind of test real world manufacturing. Because for us it was clear it's not just a lab test, it's not just a cross section, it's not just doing a fatigue test on some diamond shape. It's really about testing the ingot and the tubes that come out of and the components that come out of it on the real live use cases. And I think here it's great to have these partners on board, because everyone does things a little bit different in the industry. Everyone has this proprietary technology around polishing, around tube drawing. So there is no common standard, but everyone has its own technology. And that's why it was also important to have different partners that are to some extent also competitors. And of course, Euroflex and Vasco Tube are competitors, while Mico and Admedus are also competing companies. And for us, it was clear that we need these interfaces to talk to each other, to kind of define details and to have technical standards in some way, but also be able to protect the intellectual property of each and every company that is in this partnership. So this is kind of the challenges that we of course had to address and that to define. And also for us, there was no real blueprint for this. We did not look out and to say, oh, we just do it like XYZ that did it. We really had to think it from scratch and had also kind of deal with all the different interests in this project and kind of address the needs for ingot melting, address the needs of tube manufacturing as well as component manufacturing. And I think that's what made the project challenging, but also quite an interesting and a fun journey, I would say, because you had to manage so many kind of people and things around it that needed to be addressed.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Manage the people, the competition factor, all these factors, agreeing on the standards. That's a lot of work and effort. So good job there. And Jacob, you mentioned earlier about some M&A activity, and I know that was quite controversial a few years ago, right, with gun drilling and ingot. And I was maybe that's a good lead into, what's in it for the customer in Prime. Is that kind of one of the reasons why it started in the first place, that activity, that M&A activity, and some of the after effects of those decisions? And that, no?
In some ways, I would say that it was nurturing to the discussion, but it was not the ultimate kind of reason. I think the gun drilling issue that we've seen in 2022 was solved before Prime even had the first reports out. I think, or was kind of coming to a close, and the capacities also were coming up to speed. So gun drilling was a topic at the time, and a lot of companies took independent measures to solve this problem. But what it did in some ways is that it kind of created it kind of made people think about their supply chain. Yeah. It made tube manufacturers think about their ingot supply chain. It made component manufacturers and device manufacturers think about the ingot source, about the tube source. And I think what we are now at in 2026, we are more aware of our downstream supply chain and our upstream supply chain, of course, and we think about this more strategically. And this is, I think, the ultimate reasoning, and also all the hiccups that we've seen in COVID with different kind of components. It's really kind of what fueled the discussion and said, yes, we need to get to one table. And the M&A activity and that is out there and that's still going on and it will always continue is not the ultimate reason. It's more the strategic supply chain thinking that we see there.
Okay. You made a good point that I think when people think of nitinol, maybe they often think of the end laser cut stent or tube, and maybe not, starting here and even the melting and all the other many processes, chemical processing, everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's quite a long supply chain.
Yeah.
And as always, everyone has to do its part. And for us, we kind of like this distributed supply chain. Sometimes you tend to say, oh, maybe it would be easier to do everything in house, but I think if you look at something as complex as nitinol, that is a very complex endeavor. Some have been able to kind of acquire the assets over time to do that. On the other hand, I think there's nothing wrong with a distributed supply chain, as long as you know what your partners can do, if you know your capabilities, and if you have long-term relationships. So if we look at the interface to tubing, Mico and Euroflex and Vasco Tube have been working together for 30 years. Since the inauguration of Vasco Tube, Mico was a customer there. And also Euroflex has been a partner from the beginning of Mico. Basically, when we started making the first stents, we had basically the GRAL group and Euroflex as a partner on board, and we are very grateful for these long-term relationships. But also I think it's important to kind of spread across here, and we also have very good American suppliers for tubing on board. That some of them have the ingot melting capabilities, and you see differences, but overall I think all of them have their edge on different kind of tubes. So this is I think very important for us as well as for all the partners, that we stay open. We did not want to make this, and I think that was some questions that some of our partners had. Is this some sort of a closed source? It's not at all. Like, everybody in this industry can benefit from the findings here, these reports, the white papers that we have out there. They're on the website. They can be downloaded, and also we invite everybody in the industry to buy the ingot from Fort Wayne, to draw tubes out of it, to buy the tubes that are drawn out of the ingot material that has been evaluated, and also that there's nothing that prevents anybody from interacting with these partners here. So they can all be independent partners to you, and everybody has access to all the process steps here by working with these partners.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a high level of transparency, Jacob, with performance and process, and with the legacy relationships that you talked about. It enables that, right?
Yeah, that was always important, because we did not want to create the situation where we saw ourselves a little bit in 2022. We wanted to create a platform that the industry can use, because ultimately we look at patients, we look at devices that our customers can create, and all these companies, all the contract manufacturers, all the tube manufacturers, they have a reason to be in the market, and they have the edge, and we always want them to have a fair advantage. That the advantage is that they have some process capabilities, some know-how, and of course the employees, they play a huge role. You see this in this project as well, that you need to have qualified and skilled employees, and this is what we see as the pure advantage of the supply chain. What we don't like, or what for us would be a problem, if someone says, I'm gonna lock someone else out, I'm making it not accessible to someone else, and all these partners, and for example, GRAL is also the owner of Euroflex and Admedus at the same time, or the GRAL group. So basically they are also open. They supply us with tubing, and Admedus is also free to buy tubing from Vasco Tube. They don't have to only rely. And I think this is where real kind of competition and where real skill is being developed. If you're not locking yourselves into a single source, a single solution, that's super important for us. And I think there's a very common understanding in this group that everybody loves real competition.
Yeah. How has the feedback been since this consortium has been established from a customer base?
Yeah. Very, very positive. I think that the moment we came out with this roughly a year ago, customers were calling in and asking how can they support the project, when can they test the material, what is it about. I mean, as the kind of the nature of it is quite complex, not everybody understood immediately what it would be, and so of course sometimes we had to do a little bit of explanation, but the overall feedback from the industry and from device manufacturers was extremely positive, and everyone was very grateful to hear that there would be another ingot source for nitinol manufacturing.
Right. Okay, excellent. Let's wrap things up in two ways. So tell us what's next for Prime, and then I do have this one last sample if you want to go through that. I don't know if it was related to Prime or not, but it was pretty cool. It was in here.
Yeah. That's a nice test sample. So so we continue to finish up basically the reports. There's more news on this at MD&M in Anaheim. So we have some scrutiny around this. We want to finish all the fatigue work that we've been doing. We have still some tubing that we will see at Mico to manufacture components out of it. So there's definitely more white papers coming out. We've just released also a few more updates in the white papers to be able to ultimately create a comprehensive set from the testing perspective, mechanical performance. We've done all the cross-section analysis. We've done a lot of corrosion resistance testing. And then I think this is more for the higher generations of material, lower inclusion size, that we've also been doing testing of fatigue life. And the sample that you have been holding in your hand, and you might want to show this again, this is called a diamond shape, usually in the industry, as a test sample. And it's particularly designed to test the fatigue life of this material. So usually what this will undergo is tens of millions of cycles of force being applied to it, and then we will see after what time it will crack. So this could be 10 million cycles, could be 100 million cycles, could be 400 million cycles, or even for the US FDA and the hard valve frames, we try to give it 600 million cycles usually. And this is the results from that give a lot of confidence, because even if you have a very good grain size, you have a great texture, microstructure, you have good corrosion resistance, the ultimate fatigue life is extremely important for these devices, because this is what defines patient safety, and this is what the project always puts first.
What I'm hearing is that with this documentation, standardization, there could potentially be some benefits in speed for regulatory approval as well, maybe FDA, maybe. Is that?
Yeah, it's a good a good thought about it and a good debate. And of course, every regulatory body is it sort of the European agencies, the European notified bodies, the FDA, but also Brazil, China. Everyone thinks about this a little bit different, but the comprehensiveness of reports that we generate will provide some assurance and some data that is needed, but it's, I would say, very individual on each and every product to demonstrate fatigue life, and it really depends on the nature of the device, on the class of the device, what is really actually needed. So I cannot make a broad comment here what will actually happen, but what we encourage our customers and also on new projects, it's always a valid alternative. So for example, for us, it was also important that we would not just say, well, we have Fort Wayne as a new ingot source, and we can get good tubing, and tell our startup customers or tell all the NPI projects, let's use this material, and then we find out later, oh, you know what? Actually, we don't see a fatigue life here, or we don't see corrosion resistance here. So for us, before we would recommend this material to our customers, we would really say, let's put some scrutiny behind this. And now we feel very confident it behaves the same, and it has its performance, and we know how it behaves, so that we can recommend in different situations different types of ingots. And I think what we've also started to work with our customers to think about supply chain more strategically. Like, is what's the scale we'll work on later? What's the geographies we're gonna sell in, or the customer's going to sell in? So you think about that more strategically, and also look at is it necessary to do a dual sourcing, or can we allow single sourcing? So all these discussions, our customers are thinking about this more strategically, but we have also suggested to address this more strategically in general.
Okay, excellent. Jacob, thank you so much. This has been real informative, and to give everybody, including myself, an update on Prime and what it's about, what the benefits are, and what the future holds for it. Very exciting, and I appreciate all the efforts from everybody involved.
Yeah, Steve, thank you very much for covering this. I think it's great that not just companies, but also this initiative can be presented here, and also I encourage everybody to look at the website prime-ingot.com, and we have the white papers on there. We'll have all the partners. We'll have the technical experts at the MD&M show. They are happy to answer questions. We have the direct contacts also on the website. You have the technical partners, but also marketing and management partners on the website. So it's very transparent in its nature that you can get feedback. You can contact us immediately. And if you have questions, we really value an open discussions, and we are eager to see the response to the next white papers, the next data coming out there.
Excellent. I love the transparency, Jacob, and we'll share the website as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time, Steve.
All right.
And looking forward to meet you at MD&M.
Absolutely. We'll see you there.